Hey guys, Ben here with the Easy Review. Just want to talk to you guys about my DM14, and part of the reason why I do these reviews is I want to convince you why some of these guns that I show you are a good investment. Right now the DM14 is most likely about to drop in price, RIP my bank account, and so that does make it a prime choice for anybody looking to get into the speedball game for a lower price with a high-end gun. And let me talk to you about why this is such a good gun and why I think you should own it. First off, we'll start with the easy stuff. You'll notice there's a button right here. This is the first toolless bolt removal that Dye ever made. You just push the button in, pull it out. I'm not going to take my bolts out right now. It's been kind of hard to get out anyway lately. I don't know what that's up. Doesn't matter. And also, I do want to discourage anybody just from pulling their bolt out and putting it back in multiple times. Honestly, unless there's a real issue with the gun, you don't need to pull out your bolt and re-lube it after every single match. I know some people encourage that, but I definitely don't. Because the more you pull out your bolt, the more wear you put on your O-rings. A lot of that wear comes from you just yanking the bolt out and then shoving it back in. No matter how soft you're being, you're pushing it up against the metal, and you're putting more wear than it would by itself. So I definitely don't recommend doing that with your gun. I lube about once every 3 months, or if something happens I have to clean the bolt, then I'll lube it again then. But other than that, you don't really want to take apart your gun that often. Just going to mention that, sorry. So let's move on to another feature that is greatly sought after in today's guns, the gas-through frame. No macro line. Unlike the NT that I showed in my last video, this has no macro line. NTs, like I said before, were not supposed to have macro lines. Too bad they didn't, whatever. DM13s had macro lines, and then they finally got it done with the DM14. There's a huge amount of space in between the trigger guard and the foregrip, which is something I like a lot when I hold my guns. I like to be able to put my thumb behind the foregrip. Sometimes I do like this, but usually I like to have the option to get my whole hand on the foregrip. Now, since we're on that kind of area, foregrip, grips, whatever, we're going to talk about the sticky grips. Of course, Dye, they've had these toolless removal grips for the longest time, and one big difference, and one of the only differences in the DM14 and 15, is that this foregrip is wider. You can get DM15 grips and slip them on here. I prefer the wider foregrip. Works for me. So yeah, there's definitely nothing wrong with the wider foregrip. I don't really get why that was so frowned upon, but it's not a big deal to me. And since we're going over differences between the DM14 and the 15, one of the other noticeable differences is that the hopper feed neck is a little higher profile. This little silverish part right here on the DM15, it's basically just like that's not there, and they shoved it down like 1/4 of an inch. That's basically it for the differences. There's a difference in the bolt, and that's it. On all the differences, that's all the main stuff. At least there's all sorts of tiny little details that aren't important. Now, why is the DM14, a big improvement in Dye's, set of markers? Well, the Hyper 4 regulator is a huge improvement. It's much more consistent than any other regulator has been, and that's a big selling point. Your velocity stays about the same. You're using less pressure, etc., etc. This thing operates at about 140 psi. Now, speaking of regulators, this is the first, and I think still the only spool gun that's manufactured, including the DM15, and I'm guessing the M2 when it comes out, that has an LPR that's located right here under the barrel. LPR is great if your paint's really brittle. You can lower it, and your bolts it doesn't come up as hard. You've still got all the pressure you need. You can still be shooting at your field's required velocity, but the bolt will not hit the paint as hard, and you're less likely to break paint. And that also helps if you're tuning your gun. And the only time you should ever tune a gun is if you have the Billy Wing bolt or one of the Pooty bolts. If you've ever heard of Pooty paintball, P-O-O-T-Y, they clean up your bolt, make it a lot better. Really, I don't have one of those. I don't have a Billy Wing either. But if you've shot something, like between 20 and 40 cases through a bolt, that's a well broken in bolt, and then at that point you can start tuning. But without a better bolt, it doesn't make a huge performance difference. I noticed one in mine because I've shot a lot of paint with this gun, and so whenever I tuned it, I definitely felt a difference. It shot smoother, quieter, and then I decided I didn't like it and I changed it back. So yeah, another big deal on the DM14 is you'll notice here on the bottom, the ASA, you can actually slide it. I don't have it loosened right now, but I'll show you how to do that actually. Take your die multi-tool or your Allen key set, and on the right hand side of the DM, there's a little slot for your Allen key. Sorry, I'm trying to show it to you. And you just loosen it up, so to the left. Sorry. Yeah, to the left. It's easier to just do that off camera. And now your ASA can slide forward and backwards. I like to keep my tank really close to me. I actually use a little 48, 45 peanut tank, which is weird. I get some flack for that because I'm a bigger guy, and they're like, "Why do you use that?" Well, I'm like, "Well, it just works for me, so deal with it." So yeah, that was something that a lot of people, even the non-die fans, really liked. It's hard to. A lot of people don't like die, and I don't really get that, but that's not the point. And of course, being that it's a die gun, they've had this on-off ASA for the longest time. It's just a little flick switch. If you saw my NT video, I actually said the NT, their ASA was actually easier to use. Like if I'm screwing in my tank and I need the air to go through, I always put it on the on position because it's way easier to screw it in while it's on than it is to screw it in and then try to flick it on, because it's definitely not a flick, it's a struggle. So yeah. Other than that, the weight of the gun, it's a little heavy for a high-end gun. You're not used to your high-end guns weighing this much. That's definitely something that a lot of people didn't like. Like I said, it's barely a difference. If you watched my NT video, I compared the NT's weight to the DM's. I was gonna weigh it, but my scale is being weird. Alright, maybe I'm not gonna weigh it. I know the weight. It's 2 pounds and 5 ounces with the barrel on, and this is the carbon fiber boomstick, if you hadn't noticed. So yeah. Now, personally, how I feel about this gun, it's one of their. It's honestly, I think it's like one of the biggest moments in Dye's, design achievements, making this gun. It's a really low profile, high end gun. Like you'll notice, it's pretty darn thin when it comes to your high end guns. Now I know Planet Eclipse makes really awesome guns. I mean, it's like the same size as a Geo 3.5, but this is it has just a really good feel to it. I think the weight actually kind of helps. It's definitely a little thicker than some people would have liked. I know, even though I just said it was thin, some people think it's thick. But yeah, and my recommendation is that once the M2 is released, you should definitely pick one of these up if you're looking to upgrade your gun. Like if you're sitting at say a Mini right now, definitely look for a DM14, because once that M2 is out, DM should drop to around like 400 or so, most likely. 400, 500. I mean, right now they sell for about 500 and 600, depending on their condition. So once the M2s are out, unless you have a lot of money, I'd just say buy a DM14. There's no real point in upgrading to a DM15, especially if you already own a 14. Like I try to emphasize the DM15 is it's next to useless compared to, or not next to useless. Sorry, there's almost no upgrade really. It's not a big difference. So definitely, if you're looking for a gun and you want something good, pick up a DM14, and I will be covering more types of guns, or what to buy if you're a budget baller, in a later video. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.